Alright, so on the table today we have a Benrus 3-star. I've done Benrus before, but never a 3-star, and this one is a gold-plated case. Some of the gold is uh, coming off, and I do want to electroplate it and try to restore it back to original, but this is where you see the gold plate rolled. That's what the RGB is. Rolled gold plate, or rolled gold base, I think is what it actually is. So this watch actually does run, and it's also radioactive as hell. I will cover that in a little bit, but it has luminescent hands, which I actually will replace. And as you can see, they are somewhat working. The minute hand works more than the hour hand, but this is just a UV light. I use it for my 3D printing and resin, so I had it on hand. A little bit about Benrus. Benrus 3-star is an interesting piece in American watch history. Benrus was founded in New York in the early 1920s and quickly became known for producing affordable, reliable watches rather than high-end luxury pieces. Their focus was everyday Americans who wanted something dependable, well-made, and reasonably priced. So that's what this is. Now, I had a difficult time trying to get this open, and it doesn't have a traditional case back. I learned, eventually, that it has a split stem, and it opens from the front. So, crystal side, not the back side. So, twisting and turning it's not going to work as much as I try, and I actually have to pry it apart, and I do, and it takes me a while to realize that it's a split stem. So what a split stem is a split in the stem. I was trying to think of a more apt way to say that, but honestly, that's what it is. And yeah, see, so it comes apart there. That's the crystal retaining band, and the crystal actually is in pretty good shape. So I just buff that clean and remove the scratches, and then polish the case. But yeah, as you can see, I try to figure out how to take it off without ruining anything. I thought at the time that split stems were an Omega feature, because I've worked on Omegas that have had the split stem, and did not realize that Benrus also did that. So let's take these radioactive hands off. I am wearing a mask. The dust particles from the radium in the hands are extremely harmful if you breathe them in or ingest them. So here I am trying to figure out the stem situation. I know that the watch is being held on by the stem and the crown. Just trying to figure out how. I tried twisting it and everything else, and eventually I realized it is a split stem, and I use my hand pullers to pop it off. Now the way that is connected is the stem is two parts. One part clasps onto the other part, so you have like a ball and socket, if you will. It's just a little groove cut into the stem, and it pops on to the other part. There you go. So there is the split stem. So it was designed to come apart like that, and now it comes apart. The 3-star line was actually that. It was positioned as a solid entry-level mechanical watch, typically with a simple hand-wound movement, modest jewel count, and straightforward design. Nothing flashy, but it's definitely for daily wear. Watches were produced from the 1940s to the 1960s during a period when Benrus was at its strongest commercially. So as you can see, it is a gorgeous mechanism. It has that gold and silver inlay. Taking off the dial. The dial is actually not radioactive. There's no luminescence on the dial, and I don't replace any of that. I do on the hands though. So the hand is the dial is a gorgeous little red and looks like a sunburst. I really, really like that look. So as you can see, it is running. You can see the balance is kicking over. Let's get this pinion taken off after I fix my tool. I don't know how this happened. Okay, does it work? Yep, it works. Yeah, you know, sometimes you have to fix tools. That's what I'm actually doing right now with my staking set. All right, so let's get the balance off. I want to wind it down first, and it's not something that I want to do without the crown and stem attached. So as you can see, this is how the split stem connects. It just slides in. You wind it a little bit, and I want to release the tension on the mainspring. One thing is this is an automatic, so I can't release the tension on the mainspring the way that I'm trying without first removing the automatic works. And the automatic works is that rotor there that will spin with the movement of your hand. It's balanced correctly and positioned correctly so that as your hand moves, it rotates around. So let's take that off so that I have greater ease and access to bring down the mainspring. As you can see, it's still wound and still running, which is a good sign. And I take a few minutes to figure out how to take the automatic works off of this particular watch. I haven't dealt with a Benrus automatic yet. I need to make sure that I put it back together the way that it came apart. So I take a few minutes here to kind of position and picture in my brain what the designers and the architects of this watch were trying to do and make sure that everything fits back together the way that it should. I should have taken off the rotor instead of the main plate of the automatic works. The rotor is just held on by that simple silver retaining band or retaining clip right there. So take that screw off and then pull straight up, and that little clip holds the rotor in place, and it's just on a post. So I like to re-put everything back together to make sure that I have it right. That way I don't have any mistakes or issues. Right there is where I figure out how it goes back on. You have to lift it up a little bit to slide it in and get room and clearance, and then just screw it down. So I should have taken that off, but left the main plate on. It would have been easier to position everything so that I can put it back together. So this is me just mapping out how it fits and making sure that I didn't drop any screws or lose any wheels or cogs, or make sure I understand what the designers and the engineers of this watch wanted when they assembled it. So we'll put the main plate on for the automatic works, make sure everything works, make sure I understand how it goes back together. So yeah, it's got those two little ones. They're jeweled, as you can see, and they come off quite easily. I don't know the last time that this was serviced, but I'm going to say a while because everything is kind of sticky and gummed up a little bit. Oop, airborne. Do I find it? I know I do, yeah. There we go. So, yeah. Now we're going on to, now I can finally bring down the tension on the mainspring. So let's get that all worked. I'm trying to release. So we'll use the stem and crown, and there we go. Releasing tension on a mainspring. We should see the balance and the hairspring come to a stop like that. And then I can take off the balance and hairspring to make sure that it doesn't get damaged. Every time I take a balance off, I always try to use the tweezers, and I know it's wrong, and I should use the screwdriver. And I will eventually remember to do that, but I get so excited. That was me double checking that the pallet fork doesn't bounce, which means there's no more pressure. So this has a little bit more of wheels and cogs than I'm used to because it is an automatic, but the premise is still the same. And the way that the machine still works is the same. There's a few additional screws that I have to remember where they go, but overall, this is not too difficult of a Benrus. Pretty standard and simple. So let's continue with the breakdown. Take the stem out. It does use a stem retaining screw, and I want to get the train of wheels main plate off, and then the mainspring. What is it? The mainspring barrel plate, I guess you would call it. See, there I am using the screwdriver. Or using the tweezers instead of the screwdriver. One of these days I'll remember. I just get so excited, I want to take it all apart really quickly. All right, so that was the mainspring barrel, and here's the plate. And as you can see, there is residue of, it looks like lubrication, and I think I know which lubrication it is, and that is a very tacky, sticky lubricant, and it does not come off easy, so it's going to get two bath washes. I go through the ultrasonic cleaner and the spinner twice. I use a non-ammonia based cleaner now. I've switched from ammonia based to non-ammonia based, and I have noticed a little bit of a difference. I think it does handle better. It certainly smells better, that's for sure. So, yep, there we go. that is the Benrus pretty much taken apart. Now we'll go to dial side, make sure everything comes apart. Now, what I do off camera, I do the mainspring. I wind and clean the mainspring and replace it if it's old and worn. 9 times out of 10, I replace it. It just needs it. And there is the yoke. And yeah, this screw gives me a little bit of a headache, but it comes out eventually. Yeah, there we go. There is the main plate for a Benrus 3-star. I got to get the minutes wheel and intermediary wheel, and that will be all she wrote. Grab. Nope, not going to grab it with that. We'll get the silver one. Yep, there we go. Yep, making sure everything's removed. It is. All right. Let's put the balance back on the main plate so that it's safe when I clean it, and put all the parts and pieces into the cleaning baskets. Now again, I like to put everything into one basket. It's going to get it clean, and I haven't had anything get damaged as of yet. You know, knock on wood. Let me find some wood. I got some wood. And yeah, so everything will go into this basket, and then it will go into my my washing station. It gets about 10 minutes to spin and rinse and then dried. So as you can see, I put the balance on the main plate just to make sure that it gets cleaned as well, but it also protects it. It doesn't allow it to shift or move. It just allows it to spin, obviously, and clean the hairspring off of any residuals or residual lubrication. I also polish and clean the case and the case back. Make sure it's all nice and shiny. And yeah, there's the basket and there's the cleaning. Pretty simple, right? And here's everything laid out. As you can see, it cleaned up nicely. The case polished beautifully. I was super excited that I was able to get the grit and grime off. The dial still looks gorgeous, and all of the old lubrication is completely off. So the only lubrication is left is the lubrication I will apply, in accordance with, you know, how it gets lubricated. And then Benrus has policies and procedures for how to lubricate. Look at how shiny that is. Oh man, probably one of the most gorgeous watches I've worked on. And there is my 10 karat gold rolled gold stamp. Looks gorgeous. Stainless steel back, self-winding. Can't get no better. And I did polish up the crystal, took away about 90% of the scratches and any dings, so I was able to retain that. And there's a sunburst dial, 25 jewels. Now the jewels are arbitrary numbers. They just try to inflate the cost by saying they had more jewels, but they do some stuff and they help a little bit, but overall. And then here is radioactive hands. So as you can hear, the Geiger counter is going crazy. Yeah, that is not safe at all. So I need to get rid of the radium that's on the hands. So 1960s and prior, they used a radioactive material, and it was called radium. And that's how they produced the luminescence on watch dials and watch hands. So what I have here is isopropyl alcohol and water, soapy water, on that towel. And I apologize that I don't get as good a clear picture as I wanted. The zoom kind of messed me up. But you can see the old radium. I wet the hand, I wet the towel, and I push it all, and it comes off in one giant chunk. Now it is suspended in that soapy water and isopropyl alcohol mixture, and I add more so that it doesn't become airborne. I don't want those particles to be breathed in. Again, I'm wearing a mask, I'm wearing gloves, and I'm making sure everything is wet so that no particles are flying around and I'm inhaling them or consuming them. So just pushing off the radium, pushing off the old stuff, and it comes off pretty much solidly in one giant chunk. You can see there. And that's really it. That's how you remove the radiological material, or radioactive material. Radiological. Wow. Radioactive material. And you can see it there. Now I'm going to roll it all up in that wet paper towel, put it in a plastic bag, and dispose of properly. There you go. I also label it what it is so that it can be ensured disposed properly. Here are the dials cleaned. They go through a cleaning cycle with isopropyl alcohol as well. And this is... So I actually changed how I did it after this video but that's the radium powder. I tried to mix it so that it looked older and more vintage. I ended up just going with blue. I really like the look of the blue and the gold. But here's the premise of how it's working. So you have this liquid binding material, and then you have a liquid thinning material, and then you have the luminescent powder. So you put the binding material in the powder, and you mix it all up, and it will turn into almost like cake batter, a viscous like cake batter. And that's what you'll brush on and apply. And it should use the liquid capillary effect to spread across the hand. If it doesn't, it's too thick. You need to thin it up a little bit. So use a little bit of the binding material, and here I am trying to get the thickening material and make it work. This concoction that I'm recording right now actually fails. It does not work. It was too much thinning material and not enough binding material. And I actually changed things up, like I said. But I wanted to show how the process happens and how to work it. Failures are successes as well, because through our failures, we learn how to make successes, right? So I learned a lot doing this. And yes, it was wrong, but I learned the right way to do it, right? At least that's what I tell my kids. So, words of wisdom from Fine Winding here. Failures are also successes. All right, so that's the consistency you want, that nice runny liquid. And then I take a brush and I try to use the oiler, and it doesn't work. Again, it's the wrong consistency. But you can see the brush, yeah, it's too flaky. That's never gonna work. It's already drying too quickly. But I wanted to show the capillary effect. There you go. That's the capillary effect. And you see it dry almost instantly. These are the correct ones. These are the ones that actually worked out well. And as you can see here, no radioactive. Those are the hands. Free and clear. All radioactive. Yeah, the CPM will get up to about 44. I think that's just the atmospheric radiation from the sun. But that's completely within safe ranges. So I am very excited to be able to show that the radioactive material was removed and this watch is now safe. Let's get back to reassembly. So reassembly here, I'm going to oil up the mainspring barrel. And again, I have replaced the mainspring. There is a brand new mainspring in there. I just don't record that because it's not very fun. But if you guys want to see that, I do it by hand. And I know that's not the best way to do it, but the mainspring winder I have is not good. And I've just learned that by hand is more reliable, and it works for me. So center wheel goes in, and I want to make sure that I put it together. It was about a week between disassembly and reassembly to give me time to research how to remove the biological material and to make sure that I did it safely. So I am watching video that I recorded and also trying to remember how I assembled it. So here we are. And I'm remapping out how everything goes back in. I know the escape wheel needs to go there. I know the center wheel goes there. And I know the second center wheel will go into center. So I'm just making sure that it all fits together properly and the way that it should. And I want to see everything move. Now, without the main plate on top of it, not everything will move correctly. And now I'm mapping out, yep, that's how it should go. It feels right, it fits right, and the jewels line up. So let's go ahead and screw that down and drop screws. I drop screws all the time. Leave me alone. You know what happens. And that's why I have two tweezers. One that has a fine needle, which I still drop stuff with, and one that has a more robust needle that allows me to grab better. So here we are trying to get the screws aligned. There they are. And now the center wheel is secured. Now you can see there's still a hole in the center wheel. That's where the second hand's going to go, ultimately. And here I realized I had put the wrong screws in, so I corrected that. A little bit of oil, too much oil. You saw how it pooled around the edge? That's not good. We want just a little, still too much. We want just a little bit. So I actually downsized the oiler I use and reapply the oil. Let's get the zoom in a little bit better. There is the center wheel second hand. Want to make sure it fits in there nice and snugly and is straight. And we got the third wheel. Again, I'm trying to remember how everything fits together. Every watch is a puzzle, and that's the secret to my ADHD. It keeps me focused and learning how each one goes. Mainspring barrel main plate, and that is the yoke and the crown stem releasing screw right there. That gets a little bit of oil. That goes on before the main plate, so I always have to remember that. And there we go. So that is a split plate to allow you to swap out the mainspring without taking the entire watch apart. And it was a genius move by the designers, because there's been many times where a watch doesn't need a service, it just needs a new mainspring. So being able to swap that out, much like swapping a battery out on these new quartz watches, is the same premise, right? You don't want to take the whole watch apart just to swap out the battery. So that was genius to split the main plate. And they, I don't know when they figured it out, but I'm glad they did. All right, now we're getting the train and wheels aligned, making sure it all sits. I like to get it aligned as best as possible before I put the screws in. This one just falls right in. It doesn't take much manipulation, but right away, I dropped a screw. Right away, they align and they turn beautifully. I was very happy with how easily everything aligned and flowed. Let's give it a good tighten down check. Not quite. I think I misaligned when I was trying to tighten it down. Yep, there it goes. Yep. Perfect. Escape wheels moving freely. Zoom. There we go. Escape wheels moving freely. Part 2. Look at that. All right. Give it a good tighten down. Make sure it's not going to go anywhere. Some oil. Up, 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 up. Perfect. Perfect. All right. Not too much, not too little. What you want is that capillary effect with the oil as well. You don't want it to pool, but you want it to suspend in the jewel with the pinions or the pivots, so that they basically just get a nice little brushing of oil, and you don't want it to run down the staff into the wheels, into the gears, because it'll eventually gum it up. Synthetic oil has come a long way since the 1920s, when they used to use animal fat and whale blubber and different kinds of things. I think it was the 1940s before they started discovering synthetic oils, and even then, they had oxidation problems if it was ever exposed to the elements, and it would immediately seize up the watch. So we've really come a long way, and actually the watch makers are the ones that really push the oil incentive to be better, obviously. But yeah, again, this is not lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. This is opposite, so we have to make sure that we tighten that correctly, and I have to make sure that it is threaded correctly. So something wasn't right, so it doesn't feel right, so I know I need to change things up a little bit. I think that the wheel isn't sitting correctly, but something wasn't aligned, and I could tell just by the way it wasn't rotating. So I reapply the oil a little bit, not too much, just enough, because that will spread out again, and I don't want it to go everywhere. So let's redo this wheel and see if it spins a little bit. Ah, there we go. I guess the teeth weren't aligned, but they are now, and I'm actually really happy with how this thing is coming together. It's absolutely a smooth watch, and really put... Whoever designed it well. I'll just say that. Oh, my arch nemesis, the click spring. So I have a notorious habit of putting these in wrong and fighting with them for a long time. I've started to learn tricks and techniques to get them in there. What I will do is take out that's the click right there, and find out where the little retaining band is, or retaining post, and that helps me to align the click spring so that it doesn't affect it in any kind of way, and stop me from putting it in and launching it across the room, because these little springs have some tension built up into them. They're pretty impressive. They will launch all the way across the room. I like to keep the tweezers on them while I'm manipulating, with the flathead screwdriver and kind of pull it into place so that it clicks down and has some tension and pressure. So there we go. That's installed. Sweet. And I didn't launch it. That's a win. I like to put a little bit of lubrication on the click spring itself where it makes contact with the post so that it doesn't wear away. Main spring barrel sits underneath there. It gets a little bit of lubrication as well. And here is the main spring ratchet wheel. It connects to the secondary wheel, I think. I can't remember. Oh, God. But this is lefty loosey, righty tighty. And as I turn this, you can see all the train of wheels moving, the escape, all the way through to the escape wheel. That tells me that everything is aligned and running as it should, or is assembled as it should. I mean, that's always a win in my book. Dial side. Let's get dial side together. So a little bit of oil goes around everything. The pinion will get put into place. The center pinion, sorry. I like to put the center pinion in pretty soon. That keeps it kind of protected a little bit and stops me from hitting it with my finger or bending the second wheel pinion that's also in there. So that just clicks into place. It's friction and it sits pretty. There's the minute wheel and intermediary wheel, I think it is. I can't remember what that one is. Split stem. I like getting everything put in here. There's lubrication for the keyless works. That will also get a generous helping of lubrication. It's the one thing that gets moved the most, honestly, by the user. Just constantly winding and setting the time. With this is an automatic watch, so it shouldn't get as much, but it still will. Here's a stem. Again, generous amount of lubrication. Get it all in there so that it's aligned. Make sure that it works. It does. And then I will get the yoke spring, and I think the little plate bridge. While I get there, let's see what else Benrus has for us. Benrus sourced movements from several manufacturers, including Swiss and American suppliers, depending on their era and model. Again, this is a 1940s, 1950s model. So, yeah, the emphasis was not on in-house prestige, but on consistency and serviceability. That's part of why so many of these watches are still around and still repairable. And I will say, parts for these watches are easy to find, and they're generally inexpensive. But a fully assembled 10-karat gold watch, that's something to be seen. It's not rare, but not all over, especially serviced ones. So that's why I like to do these. I actually really like the look of the 3 stars. There we go. This is the retaining screw that holds the yoke in place that will allow the keys works to go between winding and setting. And putting the split stem on to make sure that it works is always fun. And moving the lubrication around, trying to make sure everything runs and doesn't hit each other. Doesn't. All right, so we need to put on this plate. This holds the intermediary wheel and the minute wheel in place. I can't remember how it goes on. I think that's right. That's upside down. Yep, that's upside down. Every single time. You know, you've got parts that go one way, and the first time you always put them on upside down. It never fails. It's like putting a USB drive into a computer. You always put it in upside down first. Doesn't matter how many times you look at it. It's always going to go in upside down. It's like a rule. All right. This is the yoke. Goes on one way. Didn't put it on upside down because it's pretty obvious this time. And then a yoke spring, which will allow it to snap back into place after you use it, and just allows for a little bit more security. These will go flying instantly, so I like to really hold them down and drag it into place, just like that. So now once the spring is in, the last thing I do is I put on the plate. So everything gets assembled, and then the plate goes on to make sure the spring doesn't launch. And that is the appropriate screw for the spring, so I want to make sure that's on hand, that I can grab it quickly. Don't forget to lubricate. Too much. Take a little bit off. There we go. That's Rodico. It's just a sticky I don't know how to describe that. It's a sticky thing. Yeah, it's a sticky thing. Yeah, there you go. But it allows you to remove excess oil or to hold the hands, or it's got a variety of uses in watchmaking and watch repair. Um, and we're gonna test everything, make sure it all syncs up. And so far, keyless works is working. Rotates the center wheel, rotates the pinion, rotates the intermediary wheel. I could feel the trainer wheels still moving. Shouldn't be any major issues. When I put the balance on, it should kick right over, provided that the balance is good. But before the balance is the pallet fork. So once I lubricate everything on this side, I'll switch to the other side and put in the pallet fork. And that's when I'll actually apply tension on the mainspring to make sure that the tension travels from the mainspring barrel all the way through the trainer wheels to the escape wheel and is stopped by the pallet fork. So that's how you test it, really. You put the pallet fork in and make sure that it's aligned properly, and then tension's applied. If it doesn't spin, it's good. If it kicks over left and right, then you know that power is being transitioned all the way through. It's really a marvel that they were able to do these in the 20s, 30s, 1900s even. You know, they were able to machine these small gears, wheels, pinions, and to such precise numbers and repeatability. Like the machining, it's so beautiful. All right, so I'm going to tighten everything down. I'll apply some pressure on the mainspring right there, and we should see, yep, kicks over. So it moves uninhibited, and everything's working together. That was a celebratory little shake. Let's do the balance. It should immediately start kicking over once it gets into place. A little bit of manipulation to make sure that it's in the jewel on the bottom. It's not, so I got to move it around. Also make sure the impulse jewel is inside of the pallet fork. There it goes. So it kicked over, it started. Yes, that's what you want to see. It wants to run. And it is running. That is beautiful. Grace. Well, look at that center wheel just running. All right, let's put in the automatic works. Now, this is where I have uncharted territory. I haven't done automatic works on a Benrus before, so I'm going off of the video that I made and a little bit of memory. And I actually discover that I make a pretty serious mistake. I need to be better about making sure the watch isn't running when I'm trying to do automatic works. Reason being is the wheels are moving and everything's moving, and it needs to not be moving so that I can get everything aligned. And here is where I learned this. I drop that wheel inside the workings of the watch, and it's being held by the escape wheel. So not to damage anything, I take the balance off, and I don't want that to get manipulated or bent or bumped. So here's where I'm trying to find that little tiny wheel. I do see it, and I'll show it in a second, but it is firmly, there it is. See it right there? Out right there. And I just gotta, oh my God, please, oh thank God. Got it. Okay. Now the watch is not running. I'm gonna assemble this without the balance and try to get it all together. That way I know it's not gonna kick over. Let's not forget the oil the jewels. What that does is allow everything to run a little bit more freely and seamlessly. Yeah, this doesn't have jewel, but I still want to put a little bit of oil because it's metal on metal, and you don't want metal on metal without a little bit of lubrication, so that's why I do that. A little bit more careful this time with these jewels. There we go. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. God, they're so small. I can't. How did they do this? I have a hard time fixing this watch, and they were making them. The tools that they must have had, and the money they spent on the tools. Oh, that's probably why their watches were so expensive, and why Benrus is trying to make it for the everyday man. Again, it was a couple weeks between disassembly and reassembly, so I'm trying to remember how this main plate for the automatic works goes on. Just trying to see it in my brain before I apply it, line the jewels up with the pivots, and make sure that it makes sense. And that does, right there. Right there, right there. Ha! Right there. All right, now does everything run? Does everything move? Did everything lock in? Because there's no room for me to really manipulate inside of there, so I'm praying that first time, every time. Looks like everything is moving pretty freely. Yep, I can see it winding. Right there. So let's go ahead and screw it down so that I know that it doesn't move and it's secure. Again, this is how I should have taken it apart the first time, but it's not what I did because I was learning. This is always a learning process. So you're along for the journey, and I appreciate you guys joining me for this journey. We're all learning together. So now that I have the main plate for the automatic works on, I can go ahead and put the balance back in, make sure that it runs and that none of the teeth are misaligned and everything works. I have a hell of a time getting the balance in there. I think the impulse jewel was hitting something. And there we go. Got it. Okay, screw it down. Please screw it down. All right, let's see if everything runs. Yes, everything's running part 2. Let's get the rest of the screws in. And again, the oil goes on the staff for the automatic rotor, which is right here. And then all it does is sits down in there. Why'd you stop? Okay. It sits down in there. And the teeth are aligned. Now let's get the retaining, I don't know what this is called, clip. We'll say retaining clip. And again, I got to lift up on it a little bit to give me the ample room. See, this is why I practice as I take it apart, so that I know how to put it back together. Everything seems to be working. Automatic works is automaticing. A little bit of oil on the jewel. Balance is still running. Move it around. This is a gorgeous watch. Gorgeously designed, gorgeously put together. And I really do like the two-tone silver and gold. Making sure everything's running. Okay, let's go over to dial side and finish assembly. So this gets put in, and then I'll have a little washer, and then I'll put the dial on, do the dial feet retaining screws. God, that's a tongue twister. And then my newly crafted hands. I am very excited for these. They are not vintage colored. I did go with a modern blue, like I said, and I just feel like the modern blue with this vintage look, it just fits perfectly. It really does highlight how gorgeous this watch is. All right, I'm having a hell of a time to get the dial. You have to put dials on evenly. If one side has more tension on it than the other side, they won't click into place. It's a very precise installation. So now that the dial is on, let's tighten the dial feet down. And here's where I get the hands. So again, these hands are non-radioactive, and they look spectacular. So our hand, I want to get it aligned. I think I used the wrong side. I did. Yeah. Okay. So now push it down. Perfect. Make sure it's on. Yep. Love it. Now here's the minute hand. And awesome. And the second hand, my favorite part, because you get to see immediately if it works or not. And it does. Let's push that down. All right. And make sure that the hands don't hit each other or interfere with each other, which is always a possibility. You know, they get bent. And they are running strong and true. Look at that. Perfectly aligned. And it still winds. Here's the case back, all nice and polished and shiny. I want to give it one more wipe down. I put some fingerprints on it when I was moving things around, so there we go. It sits in there. Then the split screw, or the crystal retaining band will go on, and then the split stem And then, yeah, put the crystal in. There's the body all shined up. Fits in nice and snugly. And then the crystal kind of holds everything together. So it friction locks or pressure locks everything together. So here's my crystal installation tool. Make sure it's all aligned. Crystal's all nice and cleaned. And you'll hear well, you won't hear on this video, but you should hear a click right there. That's where the oh, shit. All right. Let's try that again. There's the click. Okay, now it's on there. I must have had something misaligned. So, and there's the split stem installed, running beautifully. And let's check the lume. Nice and blue. Oh, look at that. Tell me that's not pretty. That is pretty. Let's get some bands on here. Now, again, these bands are from a friend in Slovakia. He hand stitches and puts these together, and they are gorgeous. So I want to thank you all for joining me on this. If you have any questions, comments, please leave a comment below. I love to hear your guys' thoughts. Anything I could do better, I'm always willing to listen. And thank you for joining me. I truly appreciate each and every one of you, and look forward to the next watch. All right, have a good day. Like and subscribe.